with more. Mark Thiessen, Fox News contributor, former chief presidential speechwriter for George W. Bush, and Howie Kurtz, host of Fox News' Media Buzz. Welcome to you both. Mark,
Thanks,
inappropriate?
Oh, my gosh, and completely inappropriate. And look, I don't associate myself at all with what Donald Trump said about Mexicans. But to compare him to for the executive, a senior executive of this network, to compare him to a mass murderer. I mean, this guy, as you pointed out, is the president for content and programming at this network. The guy responsible for the content of Univision thinks it's appropriate to send out a tweet, an Instagram photo, comparing a Republican presidential candidate to a white supremacist who just massacred 9 people. What does that say about the culture at Univision? What does that say about the biases in that newsroom, that the person who's responsible for their content thinks this is something that's appropriate to do?
And are we likely to see the rest of the media rise up, Howie, and say inappropriate? I mean, can you imagine what would happen if a senior executive at the Fox News Channel sent out a picture like that with Hillary Clinton on the other side? Do you think any news organization would stand for Fox News hosting a presidential forum or debate?
No, but I hope that the media will rise up and say that was so beyond the pale that it is just reprehensible. But look, if the folks at Univision want to rip Donald Trump's comments on Mexican immigrants being over the top and offensive, that's fair game. For the network to unilaterally break a contract to carry his beauty pageant because it doesn't like what he said, that's political retribution. And you talk about the culture there. Jorge Ramos, the chief anchor, openly crusades for immigration reform, and therefore this is a network that I think doesn't like a lot of the Republican candidates, clearly punching back at Donald Trump. I can't imagine that they will now be allowed to host this Republican presidential debate.
And yet this is what we're going to see. This is not the first attack. I mean, pretty vicious one, really, compared to a mass murderer we have seen on a Republican presidential candidate. And the race, I mean, it's still June. It's still June, Mark.
Yeah. No, it's very early, and look, there's a clear bias against Republicans in the media. But this Univision isn't just the media; it's basically a Hispanic MSNBC. It is a far left network. I mean, a Media Research Center did a review of their coverage, and they found that they lean very far left in their news coverage. They're 3 times as likely to quote the liberals as they are conservatives. And as Donald Trump pointed out, the owner of their network has said that it is his dream to see Hillary Clinton in the White House. So why would Republicans go to a debate hosted by a network that has liberal bias, whose president says that one of the Republican candidates is comparable to a mass murderer, and whose owner wants Hillary Clinton? It's his dream to see Hillary Clinton in the White House.
And the likely moderator of that forum, it's not a debate, but it's a forum, but the likely moderator apparently believes that Donald Trump is a clown. I mean, has come right out and said that one of the candidates is a clown. And yet Mr. Trump is ready to participate in that. He says he's just going to have to try harder. Howie, in the past couple of weeks, we saw the Ted Cruz with the gun to the head from the AP. Oh, it was an accident. The Marco Rubio thing. Oh, he had some traffic tickets and he had a luxury boat. It turns out it's a fish. I mean, already it starts.
Well, I don't want to paint everyone with the same broad brush, and I think that some scrutiny of these Republican presidential candidates is mandatory, but the AP shot itself in the foot by running that picture of Ted Cruz with the gun behind him on the billboard pointing at his head. I don't know how any editor was willing to carry that. And the New York Times, the piece was beyond absurd, making an issue of the 4 traffic tickets over 17 years on the part of Marco Rubio. So when these things happen, and now you have Univision and Donald Trump and a spat over a Miss Universe pageant, it does reinforce the notion for those who believe the media are not fair to Republicans. Well, here's yet another example.
Here, look at this one. He's just like a mass murderer. I mean, come on. Whatever you think of Donald Trump and what he said, for the president of content at a network that's hosting a Republican presidential forum, inappropriate. There's no way around it, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Megan.
My pleasure.
Unbelievable.